Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dave, and we're the IB English guys. And today we're going to look at a sample piece of student writing in response to a really powerful PSA, a public service announcement from an organization called Moms Demand Action.
Yeah, that was about gun violence and school shootings, Mr. Giles. That was quite upsetting. Just to remind you of the guiding question, students, the guiding question was as follows. How does the PSA use language and visual elements to convey a value message? Of course, keywords, Giles?
The keywords are language and visual elements. These are the technical features we're going to focus on. There's an interplay between text and language in this PSA, so obviously they're inviting us to talk about both, but the word value message is really important.
Yeah, we definitely want to think about the values that are implied and that are expressed in the PSA. The thesis the student came up with is as follows. Through the combination of impactful and emotional visual and textual elements, Moms Demand for Action public service announcement communicates the absurdity in lax gun control laws and the dire need for strict legislation to protect children from gun violence. They nailed that, Mr. Giles. Tell me what you like.
Yeah, well, they're connecting to the visual and textual elements, but again, they're thinking about the absurdity of gun control laws. I like the word absurdity. I think it's strong. And again, this is the idea of protecting kids. That's your value message.
Giles, I like the word rudimentary. Should we show them the rudimentary? What is a rudimentary outline? Let's show them the basic, the simple rudimentary outline.
Yeah, that means that you're writing an outline for yourself with the main topics of your paragraphs.
All right.
So we like the rudimentary outline.
We do. We make all our students write one before they start writing, and you should too. Looks like this writer's going to start out with an introduction. Of course, that leads to a thesis, and then their first body paragraph will look at the absurdity of this PSA, and they're going to focus on verbal and visual irony.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Like the whole idea of the opposite, and that's again the central aspect of this entire PSA. This the second body paragraph is going to look at the young girls and pay attention to those subjects and how they connect to innocence.
Yeah, we're going to look at the symbolism, the books in the library, and then move on to looking at the language in the headline and the copy. And Giles, how will we finish this paper off?
Yeah, finally they're going to look at the logo and the slogan. I like that. I think that's worthy of attention and how that provides a call to action. And then finally we're going to have a conclusion. So thinking about a 75-minute task with a 5-minute reading time, again, if we're writing 10-minute paragraphs, this is possible. It's ambitious, but I think it's possible.
Yeah, Giles, I really like the hook on this one. They're referencing Columbine High School, Sandy Hook Elementary School. They're really getting us into that topic of school shootings and gun violence in a really powerful and impactful way, and anchoring in the USA.
Yeah, and that's the context, right? And that's in that hook. And then again, connecting to gun control laws and some of the things that are happening. So there's an awareness of this global issue, and just leading right into this PSA, and again alluding to the publication date and also the audience of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I noticed that in this particular paper we've underlined some text, and I see the word impactful being underlined here. Can we talk about why we've underlined it in this case?
Yeah, so I think we're trying to look at the idea of evaluation. This is on the rubric. We want to think about how well we are using words, adjectives, and verbs to show evaluation. So the word impactful is evaluative. So we're going to underline a few of those phrases that we think are useful.
Yeah, ultimately this introduction is successful. It has the language of the guiding question in green, Mr. Giles, and it has a couple of rich ideas in pink. The student has a great handshake, a bow, a namaste, whatever you say, and they're off and running. Let's look at that first body paragraph. What do you notice?
Okay, the word irony is, again, what we talked about, the sort of visual and verbal the visual and verbal irony that's there. Again, this pervades the PSA, and the absurdity is established. We're looking at some of those visual elements we've talked about when we looked at reading a photograph. We're talking about composition, what's in the background, the foreground. And again, I like the symmetry. In this ad, in this PSA, there's that sort of two halves, and they're talking about that. I think that's really wise, and they're bringing in some good ideas.
Mr. Giles, this student is pretty smart because they know that they have to discuss implications. They've used the sentence stem. The implications of this are that. What are your thoughts about this?
Smart. I just think that's, again, the implications are drawing conclusions. They're thinking about, they're reading between the lines. That's part of that subtext. That's the subtext.
And Mr. Giles, it alerts the examiner that the student is savvy and understands the rubric, and they're writing for points here, it seems like.
Kind of, yeah. But I think the rubric is meant to push us. And
it's meant to make us a good writer, and that's what it's doing here ultimately.
Yeah. Okay, now we're going to have, again, to be honest, I like the shorter paragraphs. It's working for me because now this next paragraph is very focused on the young girls. These are the subjects of the image. Using the word subject is, again, looking at another way to talk about a photograph.
Yeah, and for me, Mr. Giles, the magic of Lang Lit, I just love that visual analysis, and they're looking at the gaze and the posture and really doing that close scrutiny of the images of the subjects and really trying to think about all that implies and all that can be, analyzed there. I think that's really skillful, and I love it again. The sentence, "This is a highly effective way." Great evaluation. This student is cleaning up criterion B right now.
Yeah, and they're waking to wake the reader up. That's exactly what they're trying to do.
Mr.
So really
Giles,
good.
I got to be honest. I don't really love that effect of wake the reader up. I find that I don't love it, but we'll talk about me stealing a point from that later.
Okay,
you look mad. You don't look happy.
I'm
about
not
that.
mad. No, it's fine.
Okay.
Then we're going to talk about symbolism. Again, we alluded to this in our previous video. Just thinking about symbolism and thinking about the significance of the flag, the empty chair. This is, again, having the student really think about some deeper ideas.
Yeah, and again, just really all over the implications. We see it twice in here. Earlier in the paragraph, the implications of the symbol are, and then toward the concluding sentence, the implications of this message are. Now, folks, we haven't really seen this in our writing yet, but definitely this student is being very thoughtful and paying close attention to B, and it works for the student.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when they're mentioning the whole idea of Little Red Riding Hood. They actually thought about the choice of book and how the wolf is this threat. And they're alluding to this idea. This is, again, the student just sort of stretching their muscles and thinking a little bit about the significance of that.
I think as a writer, you have to take on the book because obviously that was a very intentional choice of that book, and that sort of juxtaposes that notion of wine versus the firearm, which one is banned and which one isn't.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so then we have the text and the language and the headline and how that conveys ideas, and that connects to the idea of absurdity. They're really stressing that idea of protecting and having change and swift action. This is the value message, right? They're keeping that in mind.
Now, folks, you've been watching our videos for a while now. I just can't help but notice the great highlighting of this paragraph. Giles, I think that just really captures what we're trying to do with our students. It's got the green, the language of the guiding question. It's got the yellow features. It's got the pink ideas. It has the orange relationship, the blue textual references. This writer understands paper one, and more importantly, they understand how to write textual analysis.
Yeah, and they're trying. Yeah, I think they're just going through the text and unpacking it with some strength. And the last penultimate paragraph looks at the visual element and just the logo. I think logos are really fun to unpack. They're obviously super well designed. They've been thoughtfully put together. This guy helped put together the logo for the IB English guys. It took you like 10 months or something. No, it's hard, and
tough.
Making those choices is difficult. So again, I think that's all there. And again, they're even thinking about the slogan that's underneath the logo. Really, really detailed.
Yeah, we're getting into the conclusion. Again, we see that underlined bit where that showing some evaluation. They're linking back into that language of the guiding question, and they're staying with that irony and absurdity, Mr. Giles. Can you talk a little bit about that closing sentence and how we think that's important for the paper?
Yeah, I think you want to end with a flourish. You want to end with some, just something thoughtful. I think ending on a question is really interesting because it's really showing that you're still thinking about, as you're finishing, you're still thinking. And again, this whole idea, who or what is the big bad wolf? Well, obviously they're using their own rhetorical question, thinking about the real danger is not the wine bottle. Yeah. The real danger is,
it's that assault rifle, Giles, that's in the American school. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
All right, some numbers?
Yeah, let's talk about what we think. Again, I think this student is showing a nuanced understanding. They're showing a real command of the text. They're looking at many details.
They're looking at many details, and I feel like they have some really good nuanced understanding. They understand the implications, as is indicated by the sentence stem. The implications are like, I like that. I like the references. I feel like they have great understanding. I'm A5.
Okay. And criteria B, I think, again, we've got a lot of terminology, a lot of really specific terminology that's accurate, and the analysis really is paying attention to the effect on the reader and why they made those choices.
Yeah, there are a few things here, like drives home the message, wakes the reader up. I'm not crazy about those, Giles, but there is enough in there that I'm going to go 5 for B. But I'm not crazy about it.
Yeah,
I could go 4.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
I'm
going to push back because, okay, if you said that it wakes the reader up, period, I think that's ineffective. If you say it wakes the reader up to the absurdity of gun laws, then I like it a little bit more.
I like that too.
So I think when they do say that wake the reader up, they're actually saying what they wake the reader up to do.
I'll go 5 for B. Okay. This guy's going to bother me with this one. We'll go 5 for B. Shut up. Okay, let's do C.
Okay, C, we're thinking about structure. We're thinking about focus. So did the student focus on the guiding question?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And did they focus on the technical aspects, the visual elements?
They did, and I think the paper is cohesive, meaning I think it's clear, there's a clear progression of ideas. I think it's a 5 for C, Giles.
Yeah, it's got that absurdity thread throughout the whole text. And then finally, language, I think there's good voice. I think there's a real panache at the end. I'm inclined to give this a 5 on language.
Yeah, I think it's another 20 out of 20, Giles. But students, I think what's important is you've seen 8 papers now. You should notice some patterns here. You should be really trying to pull out these sentence stems and think about how you can leverage them and write your paper using the same types of language, okay?
Yeah, we want to give you good examples, and we want to talk about, and in a subsequent video we've got planned, we're going to look at a paper that's good, and we're going to take that good paper and turn it into a great paper.
Giles, we got to finish the countdown first.
I know, the countdown's coming first.
We're close. Folks, we hope this helps you. We'll see you next time, and stay with the channel. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.